Okay, so have you seen the news lately? It's like, is it just me, or is the world getting a little, well, weird?
Weird.
Yeah, weird. Like 1 minute we're debating, politics, and the next we've got tech billionaires launching themselves into space on a giant banana-shaped rocket.
Well, I suppose that's one way to put it.
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
It's enough to make you wonder if, everyone's gone a little bit crazy.
Maybe lost their marbles is a bit strong, don't you think? Perhaps it's more like the world's playing a game of Mad Libs, but the prompts are getting a bit, shall we say, out there.
Okay, yeah. Out there works too.
Yeah.
Which is why we're diving into this article I found called, get this, The World Has Officially Lost Its Mind. Here's the proof.
Ah, yes, I've seen that one floating around. Always enjoy a healthy dose of social commentary with the side of the absurd.
Exactly. And we've got some really interesting news stories from this article, and I guess our mission today is to see if we can make sense of it all. Maybe even figure out if we're still sane while we're at it.
I'm game if you are. Let's see what we've got.
All right then, buckle up. First up, we're talking about $50 snowman arms. I'm serious.
Snowman arms.
Yep. Some retailer in Russia is selling bundles of twigs. Yeah, just plain twigs. For building snowmen. $50 a pop.
Wow. On the surface, that sounds like, peak late-stage capitalism kind of stuff. But if you really think about it, it's actually a pretty interesting example of marketing and consumer psychology at work. I mean, it's not really about the twigs themselves, is it?
Right, it's like they're selling convenience or, novelty or something.
Exactly. It's like saying, oh, I'm way too busy, too important, too cool to gather my own twigs for a snowman, so I'll just pay a premium for this. It's ridiculous, but then again, maybe it makes sense in a world where everyone wants everything, like right now.
Yeah, I guess you're right. It's like that instant gratification thing. But still, it's kind of crazy to think that people would pay someone else to gather twigs, right? I mean, don't they know those things literally grow on trees?
Well, it might not be about forgetting where they come from. It's probably more about, shifting priorities. Think about it. Our lives are so fast-paced these days. Everything is so urbanized. And nature, well, it can feel pretty far removed from that.
I guess that makes sense. Okay, so enough about twigs for now. Let's move on to something a little more high-tech. We're going to China, where they're basically bringing Robo-Cop to life.
Robo-Cop. Wait, are you talking about the movie?
No, not the movie. I'm talking about real AI-powered robots patrolling the streets. They scan faces, track people, and they even look for what they consider to be suspicious behavior.
Yeah, the rise of surveillance technology is something we definitely need to be talking about. I mean, the idea is that these robots could help make cities safer, prevent crime, that sort of thing. But there are some really big questions about privacy and how this technology could be misused.
Exactly. It's that whole slippery slope argument. Today it's robots watching for jaywalkers, but tomorrow, who knows? And then there's the whole issue of algorithmic bias. Like, what if the AI is trained on data that's biased? Then it could unfairly target certain groups of people.
Right, that's a huge concern. We can't just assume that technology is automatically going to be neutral or objective.
Yeah.
Algorithms are created by people, and people, well, let's face it, we're not perfect.
Totally agree. It's like we want the innovation, but we need to make sure it's being used ethically. Okay, now for another interesting and maybe slightly creepy development, we've got the death prediction app.
The death prediction app? Wait, what? There's an app that tells you when you're gonna die.
That's the idea, yeah.
Wow. That's definitely gonna get people talking.
I can just imagine those awkward family gatherings, everyone comparing their death dates like baseball cards.
Yeah, I see what you mean. But beyond the initial shock value, this kind of thing really tacks into our fascination with death, and our desire to understand, maybe even control our own fate.
I get that. I mean, if I knew I was going to live to be 100, maybe I'd take better care of myself. Or if I knew I only had a few years left, maybe I'd quit my job and finally travel the world.
Exactly. It becomes less about when and more about how. But of course, the big question is, how accurate are these predictions anyway? And there's the whole ethical question about how this information could be used, or misused for that matter.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot to think about there. And we're going to do just that, but first, we need to take a quick break. We've covered a lot of ground already, and there's so much more to unpack.
We've gone from $50 twigs to Robo-Cop to apps that predict your death. It's safe to say the world is full of surprises, some delightful, some a little unsettling.
So I think we can agree the world is, let's just say, a little bit out there right now. But I don't want to get all doom and gloom on you. I mean, what can we even do with all this information anyway?
Well, knowledge is power, right? Even if it seems absurd. You can learn something by looking at the trends and what they say about the world, like those snowman arms.
Oh, you're going back to the twigs.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they're not just about, lazy consumers, right? They tap into something deeper.
Deeper? Like what?
Like this desire for authenticity, for a connection to, I don't know, maybe simpler times, even if it's kind of fake.
So you're saying it's like manufactured nostalgia?
Yeah, exactly. It's like those, what do they call those artisanal pickles that cost like $12 a jar? Or those old video games that are suddenly worth a fortune.
Yeah, I get it. It's like in a world where everything is mass-produced, we crave, I don't know, something real, something unique.
Exactly. And that's what creates the market for this stuff, whether it's overpriced twigs or like, fancy beard oil that's supposed to be like handcrafted or whatever.
So there's more to it than just, people being lazy. But what about those Robo-Cops? Is there anything good about those? I mean, the surveillance thing is kind of scary.
Yeah, I get it. The potential for things to go wrong is definitely there. But I think we have to remember that technology itself isn't necessarily good or bad. It's how we use it, I mean, those robots, they could be used for surveillance, but they could also be used in, like, disaster zones, right?
Danger search and rescue.
Yeah, in places that are too dangerous for people to go.
Okay, I see what you mean. It's like any tool, right?
Yeah.
You can use a hammer to build something or to break something. It all depends on your intentions.
Exactly. And with AI, those intentions are built into the algorithms. So we need to make sure those algorithms are being developed the right way with ethical guidelines and stuff, to make sure it's not biased.
So we need to have these conversations now before it's too late.
Yeah.
Before the technology gets out of control.
Yeah, exactly. We have to be proactive. And that's true for any new technology, even the stuff that deals with, our own mortality.
Oh, right. That reminds me, we have to get back to that death prediction app. Morbid, sure. But maybe there's a more positive way to think about it.
Right. Like, what if instead of just predicting when you're going to die, it actually helped you live longer?
Wait, how would that even work?
What if it could analyze your lifestyle, your genes, your health history, and then give you personalized advice on how to, improve your health and maybe even live longer?
Okay, that's a much better spin on it.
Yeah.
Instead of just focusing on death, it could help people live healthier lives.
Exactly. It's not about when you die, it's about how you live. And speaking of the future, I think we have to talk about retirement.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Because like the article said, the future of retirement isn't exactly looking rosy for a lot of people.
It's not just about personal responsibility either. There are some bigger problems here, like healthcare costs are rising, wages aren't keeping up, and the social safety nets are disappearing.
It's true. All that stuff makes it so much harder to retire comfortably. And the whole work till you drop thing is not exactly appealing.
Yeah, nobody wants that. We need to have some serious conversations about how to fix this, How do we create a system that supports people their whole lives, not just when they're young?
Yeah, I agree. It's a huge problem. But I think the future of retirement shouldn't be scary. It should be a time when people can finally relax, maybe do the things they've always wanted to do.
Right. It should be about living, not just surviving.
Exactly. And that brings us to something really important, the idea of balance. Balance between new technology and taking care of people, between freedom and making sure everyone is doing okay.
Balance. I like that. It's about finding that sweet spot, embracing innovation, but not forgetting what's really important. Our values, connecting with each other, all that stuff.
Maybe if we can find that balance, we can make this crazy world a little less crazy and a lot more human. Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive into all these crazy news stories, what's stuck with you? What's got you thinking, there might be more to this than I thought?
I think it's that idea of unintended consequences, like we talked about with those snowman arms.
The twigs.
Yeah, the twigs. It seems harmless, right? But it kind of shows how disconnected we are from nature these days.
Yeah, good point.
And then there's those Robo-Cops. We want to be safe, but we could end up creating all these ethical problems without even realizing it.
It's like every time we come up with something new, there's always this shadow side we haven't thought about.
Exactly. We really need to think critically about all this stuff, question everything, and try to see things from different perspectives.
Like you said before, it's not about being anti-technology. It's about using it in a way that helps people.
Right. And that brings us back to balance, doesn't it? Finding that middle ground. We need to be excited about the future, but we also need to be a little cautious.
It's like acknowledge that there are always going to be trade-offs.
And these conversations we're having, this is how we start figuring it all out. We dig a little deeper, look beneath the surface, then we start to see the bigger picture, how everything is connected, and how the choices we make, all of us, really shape the world.
It really is like a giant experiment, isn't it?
Right.
And we're all kind of figuring it out as we go. But the more we talk about this stuff, the more we ask questions, the better a chance we have of steering things in the right direction.
Totally agree. It's about being informed, being involved, and not being afraid to, challenge the way things are. The future isn't something that just happens to us. We're creating it right now.
Well said. So as we head back out into this wonderfully weird world, remember to stay curious. Keep asking those what-if questions. And don't be afraid to, think for yourself. The future isn't set in stone. It's like an adventure we get to choose. And we're all in it together.
And hey, who knows? Maybe we'll even figure out how to build a better snowman along the way.
Premium twigs or not. Okay, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive. Until next time, stay curious out there.